Chaverim, you may be seated. It's the extended play. So our parsha this week is incredibly dramatic, and in the part that we didn't read, there's a rather famous scene that we're all familiar with. Right? Moshe, after 40 days, is finally making his way down the mountain. And waiting for him at the side, on the side of the mountain, on the slopes, is his trusty aide, Joshua. And when the two finally meet and they start down the mountain together, Moshe and Joshua have a conversation about the fact that I hear noise coming from the camp. And Joshua, I guess because he's the military leader of the people, immediately thinks, oh, there's a battle. We've been attacked. The Israelites are fighting, defending themselves. And Moshe says, sorry, but no. It's not the sound of battle. It's not the sound of one army rising up against the other, fighting back. It's not the sound of conflict. It's the sound of celebration. And on one level, we ought to feel, oh, yay, celebration, better than conflict. Except we know what Joshua and Moshe do not, which is the source of the celebration. That in Moshe's absence and under pressure from the people, they have created an idol. And they are celebrating and rejoicing in this construct that they have made. And when Moshe and Joshua get to the point where they can see what's going on, Moshe, in a moment of, and you can fill in the blank here. Is it anger? Is it disgust? Is it a losing of heart? It's hard to describe or imagine how Moshe felt in that moment. Here he is coming down the mountain with literally a gift from God, only to find that the people to whom he is bringing the gift have betrayed the source of that gift. And you're told that the tablets are smashed. And in one strand of Midrash, they tell us that Moshe can't hold them anymore, that they grow heavy in his arms, whereas the weight before had been easy to carry because he was energized by his mission and the gift that he was bringing, and they just fall from his hands and shatter at the base of the mountain. In another strand of Midrash, we're told that Moshe is furious and he hurls them down in an act of anger because the people, he decides, don't deserve this gift from God. And in a third strand of Midrash that I'm sure was developed by the law profession of Moshe's era or of the rabbinic era, they say, no, Moshe was acting in the best interest of the Israelites by breaking the contract before they could see the details, and therefore they could claim plausible deniability. Left with, but I'm going to let you figure that pathway out yourself. I want to jump forward to a little snippet of this, of the reading that we actually did this morning. We are told that Moshe is to return to the top of the mountain, and that in fact, God has agreed to Moshe's request to reconnect with the Israelites, that the relationship can be restored and renewed and reestablished, and that God will continue to be present in the midst of the people. And Moshe is told, come back up the mountain. But this time, don't come empty-handed. Moshe is told to come up to carve 2 stone tablets, identical to the ones that were shattered in the previous scene. Is this meant as an act of penance by Moshe, who smashed the divine tablets? Or is there something more substantive? Why does Moshe have to create 2 tablets and bring them up the mountain with him for God to inscribe them? And in chapter 34, we read, the ish lo ya'aleh imach, no one should come up with you. Which is the same as what he was told before. So why the renewed repetition? And our teacher, Rabbi David of Kotsk, who is the son of the more famous Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, says, quotes Rashi, great medieval commentator, who said, Haluchot harishonot al yedei shehayu b'tshuot u'v'kolot u'v'kilot shelo shilta bahen ein ra'ah ein lecha yofi min hatzniut. That the first set were a product of the revelation at Sinai, and there was fanfare and hoopla, and it was a big event. But the first set of tablets, whose sanctity emanated exclusively from God, are the ones that are shattered at the base of the mountain because the Israelites didn't live up to their commitments. And therefore, when the text here says, you come up, and psalacha, you carve out the stones, and you schlep them up the side of the mountain, Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, Rabbi David of Kotsk, is telling us that God realizes that unless Moshe is invested, unless each and every member of the community is invested in those luchot, their ultimate fate is to lie broken and shattered at the base of the mountain. And so he reads the words psalacha, not just as a command to Moses in that moment, but rather that each and every Israelite of that era and each and every Jew of every era has to carve for themselves a set of luchot, a contract, if you will, with the Holy One, in which we set forth our promises, our commitments, our willingness to follow God's expectations. And if we don't do that, then the fate of God's Torah is like the fate of those luchot, lie shattered and broken and strewn on the ground as we celebrate something very wrong in the distance. In many ways, Rabbi David of Kotsk is following a strand of our tradition that reminds us that the commands, the orders, the words of Torah are not locked in time. If it says psalacha and No one should do it with you. If those words are meant to be eternal, then they're not just addressed to Moses in the moment, they're addressed to us, every single one of us in every generation. So the task is simple. We need to create, each of us for ourselves, our own pact with the Holy One that will guide us in our lives. We need, to borrow a phrase from a popular TV show, we need to create our own relationship agreement with God that will guide our steps and ultimately bring us closer to the holy. Amen. Chaverim, let me invite you to return to your Sidurim.